The toy lines in the 80s and 90s really learned how to make good use of a cartoon in order to push their product. But it also gave us as kids memories and toys that would last 30 and 40 years later. But not all toys were greenlighted for a release. So in Unproduced Toys Part 3, we're taking a closer look to some unreleased toy concepts. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any new videos, and let's strap in for some toy history. The year was 1990, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles had released a line called the Mega Mutants. Now, only Needlenose and Killer Bee were released in the Mega Mutants line, but there were a lot more planned actually. While most remained to be a wild sketch, the concept known as the Army Ant or Killer Ant also saw an unpainted hard copy surface. And in the concept art we could see that he would have come with little ants sculpted all over the figure. A picnic spread with a weapon-filled basket, a headpiece that would feature a metal helmet, a champagne bucket, and a dinner plate would function as pads. They were really running with this picnic theme on this guy. And it would also feature a boxing glove, but it didn't make it into the next match. Which was the prototype stage. We got a sculpt where we can see tank tracks used as armrests. Although it is uncertain that all of these features made it into the eventual hard copy we're looking at right now. Now, the Army Ant would have been an obvious follow-up to the already existing Killer Bee and Needlenose. What happens when you add bugs to mutagen, even bigger mutants? This Army Ant is ready for action to ruin the Turtles' picnic. I would have loved to have seen what the proto-chair would have looked like thrown together. Maybe on this little rendering we can kind of see a glimpse of what it would have looked like. And there's some other unproduced concepts for the line. They included the Exterminator, Undertaker Spider. This concept art is totally badass, and I just want to see this thing turn into a prototype. And another concept was the Buzzard Bomber, which technically isn't an insect, but they wanted to throw into the Mega Mutants line anyways. But why even pay designers to make this concept art when you can have kids create the art for you? In 1986, Mattel had a Create a Character contest for kids. They could send in their own designs that could possibly get made into an actual Masters of the Universe figure. Later that year, they selected 5 figures that you could pick from. The first being Netta, a hero made out of Neds. I-Beam, a giant walking eye looking kinda like Optic, which was a release in the New Adventure series. Compactor, a guy who could smash things with his torso. And the giant brain dude called Brainwave, and contest winner 11-year-old Nathan's Fearless Photog. The heroic cameraman focuses in on evil warriors and drains them of their power. Photog's chest shows pictures of the defeated enemies. Quite the concept this little 11-year-old came up with, right? He got the win after votes were cast by 150,000 people and won a $100,000 scholarship. Although there was some controversy from him getting a little bit of help from his dad, that however got resolved. And then you had the other part. The kid actually didn't own any Masters of the Universe figures.
What do we have here?
However, the contest was so late in the line it never went into production, but some toy fans have tried recreating the toy. And also, Matty Collector did the same contest for the Masters of the Universe Classics line, and there we got Castle Grayskull Man as part of the Masters of the Universe 30th anniversary. Now I do wonder which concept art you guys would have sent in, and if you would have picked one of these 5 concepts. Now here's a line I haven't really spoken about, and that is the Crash Dummies. The Crash Dummies were designed by David McDonald and Jim Byrne and based on the popular PSAs of the late 80s to get people to wear their seatbelts. Tyco released these colorful toys from 1990 until 1994.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
But did you know the character Daryl was actually a gender swap from the originally planned toy? Darlene was set for release in the generation's first wave as the only female and still remains the only unproduced character. And there's 2 concept toys out there that would later get replaced with Daryl. The first version wouldn't have been too different from the Daryl we all know, as it had the same spin top, trigger action, but also 2 short pieces of yellow checkered ribbon that sprung out on top of her head. Now her concept was quickly retired as Tyco didn't want their toy to crash with their primarily boy demographic. Protech did a final version of Darlene in 1993, but the figure never went into production, although it could have been their step into the girl toy market. Daryl, however, still has a very feminine physique left over from Darlene, and that even despite his reimagining early into the development process. Darlene remains to be the most elusive crash dummy, with some samples being packaged on Daryl cards. The only way you could get them was through a Tyco employee, and that is if he could find out where they were shelved. Now another thing that crashed is the console production by Sega. Let's zoom into that with the console wars from the early 90s, where Sega and Nintendo battled it out. Sega was doing multiple add-ons to their Genesis model in order to keep it competitive to the Nintendo. One model called the Sega Neptune didn't make it into production. This mythical system was basically a 2-in-1 system, bringing the Genesis and the 32X together in one console. Planned to be released in 1995, you could buy this one in store for $200, and it would have actually been cheaper for new Sega fans to buy this than getting both systems separately. Now the Neptune got delayed late into 1996 and then cancelled when they stopped producing the 32X add-on. The Sega Saturn was to be released, and they also had the Sega CD add-on out already. Now there's just too many Sega consoles coming all together at once. A 90s news article showed the system and referred to it as the Genesis 32X system. Now for fans that still want one of these, there is a mod possible. You could actually mod a Genesis 2 model where you could fit the 32X into as well and Frankenstein yourself one of these hyped consoles. Now I do think the Neptune would have worked better without the add-on first being released, but hey, there's plenty more consoles in the Sega sea. All this talk about Neptune and C is making me kinda thirsty, and we all know the shaken not stirred martini loving Bond. James Bond. But there was also an amazing cartoon with flashy color toys called James Bond Jr. Skullcap is a metal cap assassin that appeared in the 1991 to 1992 animated television show in quite some episodes and also in the comic books. So the second wave of toys was planned to feature this massive action figure. However, the original wax sculpt and artwork for the toy packaging took a departure from the way he was depicted in the cartoon. This would have been a bulky figure with a skull-like belly and an extra point of articulation where you could move the head up and down. I was one of the kids watching this cartoon and actually liked the toys, but unfortunately the line got cancelled, so the second wave never saw the light of day. Which is too bad because the enemies in all the Hasbro toy lines usually looked cooler than their heroic counterparts. And talking about heroes that look cool, this is the last real cartoon show I watched as a kid, as it featured some kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Mummies? Teenage Mummy Ninja Mutants? No, these guys are called Mummies Alive, which was also a cartoon show that aired in 1997, but due to low ratings, it was cancelled. The toys were produced by Kenner, and yes, of course, they had a whole second wave planned. Now, the Fright Side variation was a line that already saw some figures being released. You could pull one of the arms and a monster face would reveal, so a pretty cool and common action amongst action figures. And even though the Fright Sides were not popped onto shelves in the US, the UK did get some, but not all of them. And some of those prototypes that never were released did surface, like Fright Sides Armand, where a French mercenary appears to be a mummy monster. Now it does seem that this figure might have been released in Germany and the UK. Rat, on the other hand, is an unpainted hard copy where we haven't seen any other info on. Scarab is another prototype that surfaced, and it looks like a hand-painted hard copy was featured in a Toy Fair catalog. Now this one seems to be the hardest to find any info on, but dang, what an impressive looking figure. I guess the curse of the mummy just struck too soon for these toys, and we're gonna need a pyramid scheme to get the funds together to get a pyramid playset out of this toy line. A pyramid playset would have been so cool. If you collected Thundercats in the 80s, you probably noticed a couple more members of the Berserkers promoted in the little toy catalogs. But somehow, Cannon Blaster and Quick Jaws were never seen again. Never seen in store shelves and never spoken about in the original cartoon. But the pictures in the tiny catalogs did keep you wondering. LJN's Cannon Blaster would have had a cannon shooting action and the custom battle-matic action, consisting of two separate figures being a robotic armor and a dwarf-like berserker wearing a helmet. The figure would allow you to shoot the tiny berserker when you press the button on the robotic body. Now the other unreleased berserker was first named Drabjaws. The figure would have been too much like Master of the Universe Trapjaw name. What are you doing? And so they quickly changed it to Quick Jaws. The toy would feature an extending head and biting jaws, a unique battle-matic action where the head and jaws of the toy would extend out of the body in a scissor-like biting action. This was triggered by a button that upon its release would also retract the jaws and head back, so it could actually grab other toys. And it still baffles me that these toys weren't released. I mean, they were ready to go. It's so unfortunate we never got Cannon Blaster or Quick Jaws. Now, especially want to thank all you guys that sent in your toy history pictures from back in the day, and a special thanks goes out to Chris Fawcett, who supplied me with all the cool pictures of the TMNT Army Ant. Be sure to check out his book on TMNT prototype toys called Rat Plastic. And that's gonna be it for this week's toy history. Be sure to leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you don't want to miss out on any new episodes. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.